Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We are looking at the Masters Top 4 of the Frankfurt Regional Championships that happened this past weekend. We have here some pretty well-known players overall. Emanuele Briganti and Shohei Kimura, the 2023 World Champion and multi-time top cutter. Both these players are, very high level. We've seen some phenomenal gameplay out of Emanuele Briganti already. And looking at these teams, getting a little bit of a sneak peek, we're going to see some high damage output. Incineroar, Goldengo, Sneasler, Ninetales, Ursaluna, Blood Moon, and Rillaboom. The Incineroar here, super standard with the Intimidate, Safety Goggles, Terra Ghost, Flare Blitz, Knockoff, Fake Out, and Parting Shot. Goldengo, a little bit more on the setup side with the Make It Rain, Shadow Ball, Nasty Plot, Protect, Life Orb, good as gold, and Terra Water for that defensive Terra. Sneasler with the Terra Flying, Acrobatics, Grassy Seed to get the maximum out of that Grassy Seed trigger. Otherwise, Unburden, Close Combat, Swords Dance, and Protect. Ninetales here with the Snow Warning, Blizzard, Icy Wind, Disable, and Protect in that Focus Sash with Terra Ghost. This thing can pump out a ton of damage and also be a little bit supportive. Ursaluna Blood Moon here with the Terra Electric is pretty unique, but we got Mind's Eye, Blood Moon, Earth Power, Yawn, and Protect along with the leftovers. That Yawn came in really clutch in Emanuele's previous matchup. It just puts a lot of weird pressure on opposing Pokemon. And then Rillaboom to round things out with the Terrifier, Assault Vest, Grassy Surge, Woodhammer, Grassy Glide, High Horsepower, and Fake Out. So this team is very, very aggressive. I'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek. This is actually something that I am looking at, a very similar team actually, is something that I am looking at in preparation for a potential tournament in the future. So there's a lot of really good aggression here, a lot of really good power. Ninetales here notably does set up the snow, but it doesn't have Aurora Veil, a really beneficial defensive tool. Instead, it goes for that Disable, just outright nuking a move that the other opponent has. So it gets a little bit more interesting with that Disable. It makes things a little bit harder for the opponent to deal with because it's not something that they're anticipating. It's not something they've prepared for. But on the other side, we have a literal world champion. Dragonite, Goldengo, Annihilate, Mousehold, Ursaluna, and Rillaboom for Shohei Kimura here. This Dragonite is a multi-scale Terra Fairy, Loaded Dice, Scale Shot, Tailwind, Haze, and Protect. That Scale Shot notably doesn't do anything into Ninetales. That is a win condition for Emanuele. Goldengo here, Terra Water, it's the exact same as Emanuele's. Stats might be a little bit different, but Make Your Rain, Shadow Ball, Nasty Plot, Protect, Life Orb, and good as gold. Annihilate here is a Terra Fire with the Citrus Berry, Defiant, Rage Fist, Drain Punch, Bulk Up, and Protect. Much bulkier, probably a little bit slower than usual, and very, very tanky. Mousehold with the Terra Ghost, Friend Guard, Super Fang, Follow Me, Beat Up, and Protect. This pairs super well with the Annihilate to really stack up that Rage Fist. Ursaluna Blood Moon here is a Terra Water Ursaluna with the Assault Vest. Mind's Eye, Blood Moon, Earth Power, Hyper Voice, and Vacuum Wave with a little bit of priority there. And then Rillaboom to round things out. The same, almost the same actually as Emanuele's, but there's a Grassy Seed instead with that Terrifier, Grassy Surge, and then Woodhammer, Grassy Glide, High Horsepower, and Fake Out. So both of these teams here are very, very aggressive. Notably, Shohei does have a little bit more of a supportive Pokemon in that Mousehold, but Mousehold can still do some good work. Super Fang is a phenomenal move, taking any Pokemon's HP down by half, and Annihilate notably can do a ton of work. Getting a couple of bulk ups in, getting hit by a few beat ups from your Mousehold next to you, and then just throwing out Rage Fists left, right, and center can really do a lot of work against teams that aren't prepared for it. On the other side, for Emanuele, you have a very aggressive team. I'm looking to see damage early. And for Shohei, we actually see the Mousehold and Goldengo lead here with a little bit of redirection for your setup Pokemon. Emanuele bringing the Rillaboom and the Sneasler here. Notably, Sneasler does not tend to do great into Goldengo, but we do have that speed boost. We do have that Unburden Acrobatics already on the table as an option to get high damage out. We do have a super effective close combat into a Mousehold, so there are some good options still for Emanuele. Rillaboom could potentially go for a Fake Out if it wanted to. That would be able to break the Mousehold's Focus Sash if Sneasler wants to try to KO it in one shot. It would get a pretty clean KO, but you do have to worry about giving Shohei a clean switch in after Goldengo gets a potential setup of a free Nasty Plot. Now, if you are Shohei, you probably do want to be pretty aggressive here. If you can get Mousehold to get KO'd here while your Goldengo stays on the battlefield with the +2, that's a really good spot to be in, and it doesn't risk too much, all things considered. Ursaluna Blood Moon does make its way on the battlefield. Mousehold notably does not go for any redirection, instead just goes for the Super Fang into the Ursaluna, taking it down to half HP. Sneasler did go for an Acrobatics into it, but it didn't do nearly enough damage, and Nasty Plot comes through from the Goldengo. So there's a lot of damage right now for Shohei available, and that Ursaluna Blood Moon, which is normally rather tanky, and it's going to get some good restoration from the leftovers and grassy terrain, is going to take a lot of damage from a Make It Rain right now, potentially enough probably to put it into dangerous spot. So a Protect here would let it recover a good chunk more. That might be enough to let it survive a good as gold, and Sneasler can also go for a Protect at this point as well. Again, just preserving some of this HP while to give Ursaluna another moment to get damage out. And Terra Electric notably does not give you additional resistances to Make It Rain. That is going to be pretty big, all things considered. I'm very intrigued. I will be shocked. Okay, I guess we are actually going for the Terra Electric if you are Emanuele here. I don't fully understand the read, but that is what he is going for. So, Terra Electric, Ursaluna Blood Moon coming right up. If this does survive a Make It Rain, I am going to be incredibly impressed. Maushold also could chuck out some damage into it just to try to guarantee that it goes down, but Maushold does just go for the Protect here, notably for Shohei. Shohei trying to read some things here. Gholdengo also going for the Protect, so Shohei full protects on this turn. I think there was a chance for Emanuele to go for a double Protect as well. That would have been a very interesting turn, all things considered, but with the double Protect from Shohei, just gets to see what Emanuele was going for on this turn. I will say I am a little bit surprised. This does give, like I said, Ursaluna Blood Moon another opportunity to heal up with Grassy Terrain and Leftovers. This all but guarantees that it's going to be pretty all right going into the next turn, unless this Maushold does go for another Super Fang. Because, notably, we did see the Maushold move before the Gholdengo, and Gholdengo is almost certainly going to be faster than Ursaluna Blood Moon, no matter what. So this is a lot of direct pressure onto Ursaluna here that Emanuele has to be careful of. Ursaluna is definitely a big win condition up against something like Gholdengo. Now, obviously, Rillaboom does have high horsepower, and it also is carrying that Assault Vest, so it can still do good work into the Gholdengo if Ursaluna goes down, but if you're Emanuele, Ursaluna Blood Moon is just such a big power point. You want to keep it on the field. And Dragonite actually comes out for Shohei over the Maushold. So, Ursaluna goes for the Protect here. I don't know if Emanuele wants to try to target down, try to target down the Maushold or not, but no, it is going to be a Swords Dance on the Sneasler on this turn. Shohei goes for Shadow Ball, but it goes into the Ursaluna Blood Moon, so Sneasler also getting a +2 of its own. Dragonite on the battlefield now. Scale Shot is available. We have seen a lot of times that Dragonite has not been the fastest thing in the world. It can still do some good damage. Haze is still a pretty good move. But all things considered, Sneasler should still be the fastest thing on the battlefield right now, and it can do a ton of damage right now. Multiscale is active for the Dragonite, which is really going to help Shohei in the long run, especially on this turn. But if Acrobatics comes through and really gets a lot of damage out, which it certainly could, Shohei is going to be in a very tough spot. We do see the Ursaluna Blood Moon actually swap out, and Ninetales make its way on to the battlefield. I think this is a really good call from Emanuele. I imagine that Shohei is going to want to pressure that Ursaluna with a Scale Shot or as much damage as possible. And Ninetales is immune, again, to everything that Dragonite puts out, but it is not immune to Make It Rain. So this is going to be 4 times super effective damage into the Ninetales. It'll take it down to its Focus Sash, and Dragonite here with that Protect on Sneasler is not going to be able to do any damage on this turn. However, if Shohei tried to make a call here and go for Tailwind, this could be absolutely massive for Shohei in the rest of the game. No, it is just going to be that Scale Shot. Ninetales is going to be absolutely fine there with that Fairy typing. And now on this next turn, Ninetales and Sneasler should be faster than both of Shohei's Pokemon. So Blizzard Acrobatics could do a ton of work for Emanuele on this turn. Now again though, Gholdengo is still in a good spot. It's taken a pittance of damage overall from its own Life Orb, just because it's shot off 2 attacks and Grassy Terrain has not been able to quite heal it up to full. Blizzard is still going to do quite a bit of work from Ninetales. Again, it is an incredibly effective move. Notably, though, Shohei has not terrestrialized the Dragonite here, and so can go for a defensive Terra if he so chooses. Acrobatics is going to take Gholdengo down to a little bit above half HP, and Blizzard does come out. It does not do nearly enough damage to either Pokemon on this turn. That it will make Sneasler, able to get some KOs, but Sneasler is now down to 2 HP, and if Dragonite goes for another Scale Shot, that is going to be a double KO taken for Shohei Kimura on this turn. And while the Dragonite and Gholdengo are low, they are not anywhere close to being KO'd. Life Orb, again, damage coming through. It's actually going to be the Tailwind from the Dragonite here. I don't know if that is actually going to make either of these Pokemon outspeed Sneasler. Sneasler's Unburden does double its speed. It's going to be incredibly fast still. Grassy Terrain disappearing from the battlefield might mean that Emanuele wants to try to reset it, bring the Rillaboom in. Ursaluna is going to be incredibly slow compared to Shohei's Pokemon for the rest of the game, but Emanuele is absolutely on the back foot here. Rillaboom can go for Fake Out into the Dragonite to stop a potential Scale Shot from coming out, and Sneasler can go for another Acrobatics, but I don't think that'll do enough damage into Gholdengo. Gholdengo can also go for Protect on this turn to try to avoid that potential damage coming through without the support of Dragonite on the turn. So Rillaboom does also have the opportunity to just go for high horsepower, go for a Grassy Glide, try to get some additional damage out. You're not going to be the fastest thing in the world. Rillaboom should be able to take a Scale Shot relatively well, though. That's going to be pretty big to see, especially for the rest of this game, how well Rillaboom takes those scale shots. Now, what is pretty big for Emanuele here is that currently the Goldengo is at neutral special attack. That is going to be big for Rillaboom, who, again, resists it pretty well overall. And Shohei just goes for the double protect here. I think this is smart. You get another turn of grassy terrain recovery on your Goldengo. Fake out going into the Dragonite would normally stop it from doing anything effective here, and it would open up your Goldengo to just getting KO'd probably relatively cleanly by Acrobatics. But now it is even more of a question if Acrobatics will actually KO from this range, and Grassy Glide is kind of gonna I imagine a Grassy Glide is gonna have to be utilized here to guarantee that the Goldengo goes down. Goldengo could still go down to its own Life Orb damage, I imagine, at the end of this turn. I imagine that it probably would be a guaranteed KO on itself, but for Emanuele, actually, okay, I like this move from Emanuele here. We do see the Acrobatics come through from the Sneasler. It goes into the Dragonite, does more than enough damage there. That +2 from the Swords Dance really does a lot of work, and that Acrobatics doubling its damage thanks to there no longer being an item on the Sneasler. We do see another Make It Rain coming through from the Goldengo, now at -1, and Rillaboom is going to be able to go for a pretty strong Wood Hammer here, I imagine, is what Emanuele is thinking. A little bit more Life Orb damage onto the Goldengo here. It could be Wood Hammer. It could have been high horsepower too, I imagine, but Wood Hammer is guaranteed to hit. There's going to be a little bit of recoil damage onto the Rillaboom, but nothing too crazy. There wasn't that much HP left on the Goldengo. It does take Rillaboom down below half HP, which is notable, but this means Emanuele does get a clean switch in for this Ursaluna Blood Moon, which is almost all the way back to full HP after taking that Super Fang that put it down to half. We know Shohei has that Mousehold in the back, but we don't know Pokemon number 4 yet. It is the Annihilate. This is an incredibly dangerous duo for Shohei to have on the field right now, especially with Tailwind set up. Both of these Pokemon for Emanuele are in a lot of danger. This Annihilate has to go down soon. Right now, Mousehold is going to be able to move before either of Emanuele's Pokemon here. Grassy Glide probably is not going to do nearly enough damage to take it out from this range. If it can, then it would potentially stop a beat up into the Annihilate. But right now, beat up Annihilate is going to give it a massive, massive boost to Rage Fist, which should probably take out whichever Pokemon it wants on this turn. Rage Fist does come through. It was just the 2 boosts. And Rillaboom goes down incredibly cleanly there. What is this Ursaluna Blood Moon going for? If it's a Blood Moon into the Annihilate, maybe it does enough damage. It is just going to be the Yawn into the Annihilate here. I completely forgot about that move. This is actually a very good way for Emanuele to try to navigate this. This is probably his best bet. You don't want to risk it on damage that you don't know if it'll be enough. So, Ursaluna once again gets a little bit of restoration here. Annihilate is going to sleep on the next turn, and Emanuele can just go for Protect. I think if you're Shohei, I think you definitely have to just read the Protect here. You cannot risk, you can risk just trying to play a little bit silly here. But notably, I don't think Emanuele is actually going for this. It's just going to be beat up into the Annihilate again. This is going to be essentially a 4x Rage Fist. I don't know that Ursaluna can survive this without protecting. It's just going to be the bulk up on the Annihilate here. Shohei trying to go for an incredibly greedy read instead of just in case Emanuele makes a play that would allow him to win the game like this one. Blood Moon into the Mousehold takes it down, and Annihilate, even though it went for that bulk up, its defenses got stacked up, its attacks that got stacked up, but not its special defense here. Shohei Kimura trying to play just one level too deep, and this gives Emanuele Briganti a guaranteed turn of sleep to get damage out, and as long as Annihilate does not wake up on the next turn, which it more than likely will not, that should give Emanuele Briganti the win in game number 1 here. We just have to see what, okay, so again, we just have to wait and see. Blood Moon is coming through. This should do more than enough damage. If Annihilate wakes up, that is it. If it does not, that is it. Annihilate stays asleep. Blood Moon is coming through. This should do more than enough from the Ursaluna Blood Moon, and Emanuele Briganti wins game number 1. An incredibly close match. That was very, very tight. And so, again, I think that came down to that is a perfect example of a game where Emanuele Briganti knew that he was on the back foot. He was going to have to get lucky to win the game here, and knows that Shohei Kimura is an incredibly smart person who's going to try to take advantage of whatever situation he can there. Bulk Up is trying to take advantage of that Protect, right? When you have the Yawn out, it makes a ton of sense to just go for Protect on the Ursaluna Blood Moon to try to guarantee that the Annihilate goes to sleep so you can get free attacks off. However, for Emanuele, taking a risk that Annihilate was going to sleep for 3 turns, he decided that was more risky than going for an attack, and that Shohei Kimura was going to anticipate was a protect. I love that turn from Emanuele Briganti. Again, that is another phenomenal example of players not making incorrect moves necessarily in that endgame, just trying to play around each other, and Emanuele Briganti just got the better of Shohei Kimura in those last few turns. That is a phenomenal sequence there. But that said, if Shohei Kimura just plays a little bit more straightforward, that should probably still be his game to win. So coming into game number 2, if you are Emanuele Briganti, I think he is the one that has to try to make some adjustments in this next part of the series. So we do see the Mousehold and the Goldengo once again from Shohei Kimura, and we see the Ninetales and Ursaluna Blood Moon here for Emanuele Briganti. So again, Emanuele definitely making that adjustment, bringing the Ninetales in earlier. It is under a lot of pressure from that Goldengo. I don't know if this is Emanuele anticipating a change up in Shohei Kimura's lead, or if he wants this Ninetales early, if he wants to try to set this snow up and get some other damage going, potentially a disable or something along those lines. We'll have to see. Ursaluna Blood Moon is still in a pretty good spot. Blood Moon or High Horsepower could do a lot of work into Goldengo. That said, Protect is still a very viable option for said Goldengo, and Mousehold could still just go for some redirection here. We do see a Terastallization coming through. I imagine this is going to be Shohei going for the Terastallization here, putting that Goldengo to Terra Water. No, this is going to be Ursaluna Blood Moon going to Terra Electric, notably. Okay, again, a very early Terastallization for Emanuele Briganti here, just going for that very defensive Terra early. We do see the Super Fang come through from the Mousehold into the Ursaluna Blood Moon, does a lot of damage. It looks like the Goldengo might just be playing a little bit more aggressively here. Ninetales does go for the Icy Wind. That is going to drop speeds on both of these Pokemon here, but if Goldengo just goes for an attack, that could be all she wrote. It is going to be that Make It Rain. I think Emanuele Briganti was anticipating a potential nasty plot there, but Ursaluna does survive that relatively well, and Ninetales now still hanging on with the Focus Sash, should be the fastest thing on the battlefield after that Icy Wind drops Mousehold speed. So another Blizzard could come through. We see the Earth Power into the Goldengo, not getting Terra'd away from, and Goldengo does survive it, but only on a sliver of HP. It does not have great recovery. A single tick of Life Orb damage will take it down from this point, so it only has one more attack here to do damage with. If you are Ninetales, I think if you're Emanuele, you might be willing to sacrifice Ninetales at this point. It's a little bit risky because it is a very, very good check into Dragonite. We saw that Shohei was willing to bring it in the last game. I don't know if that's something that you want to already go ahead and risk going down, but it is pretty big. You don't necessarily want Ursaluna Blood Moon to have to take even more damage from these Pokemon, but you might also be ready to anticipate that Goldengo is going to swap out here. If you are Shohei, your Make It Rain is already at a lower damage output, and there is no swap. We do see the Mousehold just go for Protect here. What are we going to see from Emanuele? Blizzard does come through. This is going to connect to both Pokemon. Goldengo is going to go down here. Shohei trying to make a bold read, but it does not quite pay off. And the Goldengo goes down. Actually, you know what? That might not be a bold read. This gives Shohei a very clean switch into whatever other Pokemon he wants to bring. Both of Emanuele's Pokemon are at incredibly low HP. The Mousehold is a little bit slower now, all things considered, but it's still going to be faster than the Ursaluna Blood Moon. And this Ninetales is again at incredibly low HP. You can bring in a Sneasler if you are Shohei and do a lot of good work here. It's just going to be the Annihilate coming in actually. Okay, I don't think this is a terrible move from Shohei. Your Annihilate is going to be pretty bulky. You're going to be able to survive a potential Blizzard or Icy Wind, and you're going to be able to get some good damage out into either Ursaluna or Ninetales. So you have a lot of pressure right now. I don't think you don't need to go for beat up right now if you are Shohei. I think that would give Emanuele too much of an opportunity to come back into this game. I think if you honestly go for beat up on Ninetales and a Drain Punch potentially into the Ursaluna, something along those lines, that might be your best bet in order to get good damage out, potentially take a double KO on this turn. At the same time, you could try to make the read that you need to go for beat up on this turn because Emanuele is going to play a little bit defensively and you want to go ahead and get set up. Ninetales does go for the Icy Wind here. It is going to slow down both these Pokemon again, a speed drop and a speed drop, but it doesn't do all that much damage, all things considered. Mousehold should be the one that moves next. Defiant triggering here is actually pretty big, and it is going to be the Rage Fist coming out from the Annihilate going into the Ursaluna Blood Moon. Does more than enough damage. I imagine that it probably would have done more than enough damage even without that Defiant trigger, but I don't know. That's something that we're going to have to be uncertain about, and we are seeing the beat up from the Mousehold, and it's actually going into the Annihilate here. Okay, I don't mind this from Shohei. You guarantee that you're going to get one Pokemon that switches in safely for Emanuele, but you can really kind of take out this Ninetales whenever you want. You do have to be a little bit concerned about the slowdowns that you are throwing out, because Annihilate is only going to get stronger and stronger. Your Rage Fist has gotten one stack stronger along with a Defiant boost, putting you up to +2 on your attack stat already. So this Annihilate is incredibly scary, and I don't think that Emanuele has a way to deal with it that is as elegant as the Ursaluna's Yawn before. That was the best way that he was able to deal with it before, and now that Ursaluna is down, you do have a very speedy Sneasler. You can go for a Terraflying Acrobatics if you switch in Rillaboom for the Ninetales, but you don't have that Grassy Seed triggering yet. Annihilate can still Terrastallize away from this fighting type, so it's going to be very tough for the Sneasler to really deal with the Annihilate properly, all things considered, especially with this Maushold on the field with that Friend Guard as well. Rillaboom does come onto the battlefield. This is going to be Grassy Seed trigger for Sneasler. The defense boost could be somewhat relevant, but the main thing is going to be triggering that Unburden and giving that Acrobatics a double damage boost. So, are we going to see the Terastallization coming through from Shohei here? I think that is a pretty reasonable thing. We are just going to see a Protect from the Maushold. I imagine this means we're going to see a Protect from the Annihilate as well. No, we do not see an Annihilate. It's going to be Protect. It's going to be Close Combat into the Maushold here is the call from Shohei, and Rage Fist comes through from the Annihilate. Again, this is +2, 1x boosted Rage Fist. Sneasler goes down without a fight. Rillaboom is on the battlefield, but all it can hope to do is go for a potential Fake Out or a Grassy Glide. We know that it cannot take out Annihilate from this point. Ninetales does come back out onto the battlefield here, but it's only at 1 HP. I mean, if you're Emanuele, you need to try to hit some Blizzard Freezes or something. You can go for Disable to try to stop the Rage Fist, but you still have to deal with Drain Punch, which is going to be doing a ton of damage. You really cannot risk going for another Icy Wind to give this Annihilate even more damage. And Maushold still is a phenomenal support Pokemon, can still do a ton of work. This is actually a really good spot for beat up. I think if you are Shohei, you can guarantee, well, actually, I don't know that Maushold does have a single speed drop more than the Annihilate right now. I don't know how that interacts with their speed tiers. That could be relatively relevant. Annihilate does go for the Protect here. If you are Shohei, sending out a Super Fang could be somewhat relevant. You could just be trying to go for the double Protect on the Maushold. That is exactly what happened, and it did not work. We do see the Blizzard come through from Emanuele here. This is going to be a little bit of a free turn of damage coming through onto the Maushold, and it does quite a bit, taking Maushold just above the red. Who is Rillaboom targeting is the big question here. Is there going to be enough damage coming out for it to be relevant? Okay, never mind. It looked like there was just going to be a Fake Out that nothing happened, or a Grassy Glide that nothing happened to. So, Emanuele Briganti has one more turn here to really make an impact. How much work can this Ninetales do against the Maushold and the Annihilate? The Annihilate is going to be the big question. It has so much damage available to it right now. Disable is still an option. It can take out that Protect, but I don't think that that is going to be what is going to win Shohei the game. We do see the Terastallization coming through for that Annihilate, going into the Terra Fire here. That is going to be pretty big. It resists basically everything now that Emanuele can throw at it, and that, again, unless we see a Blizzard Freeze, should be all she wrote. Maushold just continuously going for that Protect here. Shohei reading that Friend Guard is the most important thing about this Maushold right now. Blizzard comes through, hits into the Protect on the Maushold. It's going to hit into the Annihilate and do very little damage. I mean, I think that did less than the Icy Wind had done before. Woodhammer's coming through, but this is going to be very well resisted, and Rillaboom is going to take recoil damage here as well. Annihilate now gets to go for Rage Fist once again. This is massively boosted, getting hit 2 more times, and Rillaboom goes down in basically a one-hit KO, just a little bit off. Ninetales is continuing to restore some HP, but if you are Emanuele Briganti, you have to read the writing on the wall here. You just do not have the damage to take out this Annihilate. You have to pray for a freeze, but even then, you could still see this Maushold coming through. You no longer have Snow Up. Blizzard is not guaranteed to hit. You would have to hit both Blizzards. You'd have to get a freeze. The Protect comes through from the Maushold. Again, that Friend Guard staying strong for Shohei Kimura here. Blizzard comes through. Does not hit the Maushold, doesn't hit the Annihilate. It does hit the Annihilate. Are we going to see a freeze? Takes Annihilate down to half HP. We do see the Citrus Berry get proc. That looks like there is no freeze on this Annihilate, which goes back up to about 3/4 of its HP. Drain Punch finishes things out, and Shohei Kimura takes game number 2, bringing us to a game number 3. That game, not quite as exciting. Shohei Kimura did only lose 1 Pokemon. It is just that Goldengo, and Maushold and Annihilate did a ton of work there. So for Emanuele, that's a really tough spot to be in. Going for the Terra Electric on Ursaluna Blood Moon feels like it might not be the play. I think I don't know necessarily that going for the Terra on Ninetales is the way to go, but it's a little bit tough. Ninetales setting up the snow is nice, but it doesn't do that much for you. It allows you to get blizzards out, but only for the Ninetales. I think the Ninetales adjustment might not be the way to go unless Emanuele was trying to anticipate something that Shohei was going to do in response to his game number 1 plan. So bringing Rillaboom again I think could be pretty relevant. That would give Sneasler a little bit more priority when it comes onto the battlefield, triggering that Grassy Glide, the Unburden, the Acrobatics, or not the Grassy Glide, the Grassy Seed, the Unburden, and the Acrobatics all at once. So again, Shohei Kimura, very well played game number 2, felt much more in control. I think the onus is once again on Emanuele to make a big change coming in to game number 3 here. I think we're going to see the exact same thing. It is just the Goldango and the Mousehold from Shohei, and it is going to be the Ursaluna Blood Moon and the Sneasler for Emanuele Briganti here. So Rillaboom, an option once again to try to get some good damage out. We could very well just see an Earth Power from the Ursaluna Blood Moon. We could see a fake out into, or not a fake out, we could see a close combat into the Mousehold. Mousehold does have Focus Sash here, so it should be relatively all right. But again, Emanuele could just be very, very aggressive here. I don't think that that is a terrible option to just try to get as much damage out as possible into these Pokemon. So far, Shohei Kimura has not been incredibly eager to swap these Pokemon out early, but has been more willing to try to protect, play things a little bit slower, not make any hasty moves. And so far, we don't see any switches. We do see a Terastallization coming through. I do believe that this is Emanuele, going for that Terra Electric again, really just prioritizing that on the Ursaluna Blood Moon. It's worked somewhat, right? We do have some good resistances with that electric typing, but we do see the Super Fang come out, and it misses. It is not fully accurate, and that is tough. You can see Shohei Kimura in his cam over there, absolutely frustrated. That is a very, very tough spot to be in. That is going to guarantee that this Ursaluna Blood Moon doesn't go down. I'll be honest, I don't think Ursaluna Blood Moon would go down anyways. Yeah, Ursaluna Blood Moon would have just barely survived that either way, which is very, very notable. Earth Power comes through into the Goldango and takes it down in a very clean one-shot. Sneasler now at +2. That is a critical hit here. I do think that that critical hit mattered, all things considered. If we remember correctly, that Goldango was able to survive an Earth Power earlier. This is a phenomenal turn from Emanuele Briganti here. That Super Fang missing. Now again, Super Fang missing there. Ursaluna Blood Moon would have still survived. It would have taken Ursaluna down to 104 HP, and that did 99 damage from the Shadow Ball. So Ursaluna Blood Moon still would have survived, but it would have been on basically no HP. Sneasler, with that +2 attack, though, with that Goldango already down, is in a very, very good spot. Now, that being said, Sneasler could have gone for Acrobatics. Goldango would have gone down on the next turn no matter what. Ursaluna Blood Moon would have been in a very tough spot. It would have had to go for a more aggressive play. Mousehold could have gone for Beat Up into it potentially. Emanuele might have had to switch out. Instead, can stay in relatively safely. Annihilate does make its way onto the battlefield now. This is relatively big for Shohei Kimura. This is, again, the pairing that we saw did so well in the previous game. Goldango went down. You had these two clean up. However, in the previous game, Ursaluna was essentially already KO'd by the time Annihilate came onto the battlefield, or at least Annihilate did not have much work to do in order to KO the Ursaluna. Emanuele, though, seeing that Annihilate is on the battlefield, wants to try to preserve this Ursaluna more and bring in the Rillaboom. That is going to be Grassy Seed triggering. That is going to be a defense boost for Sneasler. That is going to be Unburden triggering. That is going to be Acrobatics doubling its damage as Sneasler loses its item. Rillaboom being on the battlefield now means Grassy Glide and Fake Out are both things Shohei has to worry about on the next turn. We do see the Terastallization coming through for Shohei here. I imagine this is going to be the Annihilate here, going for that Terra Fire, getting rid of that flying type weakness. Notably, this is definitely a call from Shohei Kimura. You do not want to risk potentially Annihilate getting hit by an Earth Power when it goes for Terra Fire, so you're definitely calling that the swap is going to happen, but Acrobatics goes into the Mousehold here, taking it down into the red. It does not fully KO it, but it wouldn't have done it anyways with that Focus Sash. We do see Annihilate taking beat-ups here. That is going to be 3, and a critical. Shohei hits his own Pokemon with a critical hit. I don't think that's going to matter all that much. Rage Fist does come through here. This is going to be a +3 Rage Fist into the Rillaboom. Does not do enough damage this time around. It does not have that Defiant trigger to wrap things up. So Rillaboom now has the ability to go for Fake Out into the Mousehold. I don't know if that'll do enough damage. Grassy Glide almost certainly would. You do have the option now, though, to go for Fake Out into the Annihilate since it is Terra Fire, and Sneasler can get off some more damage if it wants to. At the same time, you could take out Mousehold from this point. You could still try to go for more aggression into the Annihilate. I think there is a world, if you are Emanuele, where you might be able to get a double KO at this point. You are a +2 Sneasler with all of the trappings of Acrobatics. The only thing is that you don't have Terra Flying as an option. Shohei actually does retreat the Annihilate here, bring in Pokemon number 4. I don't know how to read Korean. That is the Dragonite making its way back out onto the battlefield, and Mousehold notably goes for Protect here. So that's a pretty good read. This Mousehold is going to be the target of Fake Out or Grassy Glide almost no matter what. Never mind, the Fake Out goes into the Dragonite here. That does break the multi-scale, and Swords Dance coming through from Emanuele Briganti. So Emanuele making incredibly good reads here. Shohei trying to simplify things down, honestly, after that game one. Go for Protect on the Mousehold and just swap in the Annihilate. Worried about damage that Dragonite can take relatively easily, but Emanuele this time reading one turn farther, going for the Protect on the Mousehold here. It looks like Shohei is going for that Protect again. Grassy Glide comes through, and it's going to take the Mousehold down. Friend Guard no longer active here. Dragonite does not have multi-scale, and this is a +4 Sneasler now that is going for an Acrobatics that is basically the strongest it could be. Dragonite goes down, and Shohei Kimura, an Annihilate, is the last thing on the battlefield. The big thing in this game was that critical hit on Gholdengo towards the start. I genuinely believe that that is what made things so difficult for Shohei Kimura here. This is going to be Grassy Glide coming through from the Rillaboom just to get some damage out. And this Acrobatics, even though it's not going to be super... Never mind, it's close combat. It's not Acrobatics. That does more than enough damage. It's a stab move. It gets plenty of work done. And the Annihilate falls, and Emanuele Briganti is moving on to the grand finals. That was a very interesting game. Game number one was incredibly close. Both the other games felt kind of one-sided. For Emanuele, had to get a little bit lucky game one. Getting a little bit lucky game two, I think, did matter. The Mousehold missing the Super Fang did not matter all that much. Ursaluna was not going to go down either way. Emanuele Briganti swapped it out at the end. That was not the biggest thing in the world, although it did, I think, boom Shohei Kimura's mental, all things considered. I think the big thing was that critical hit on the Gholdengo. It probably was going to be going down one way or another due to Sneasler still being on the battlefield, and Sneasler going to be able to get some good damage out on the next turn. But that critical hit was the thing that really just swung the pendulum in the favor of Emanuele, and from there making several good calls, knowing where to fake out, being able to break that multi-scale very, very safely, which again, not even a guaranteed thing you're going to break the multi-scale. You just stop the Annihilate from moving on that turn. Feels really, really good. And Emanuele Briganti, your first finalist for Frankfurt Regionals, and we're going to continue to try to look at these. It might bleed into the weekend during Pittsburgh Regionals. I hope you still continue to tune in, but until next time, y'all, be safe, be smart, make wise decisions, and farewell.